Good morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this wonderfully hot Wednesday. Stay hydrated out there. It's going to be miserable today, but it is a day that God has created for you and me to glorify Him. Right now, let's glorify Him by looking at Hebrews chapter 1, which is exactly what the Apostle Paul is doing. He's glorifying God by describing to these Hebrew believers, these Hebrew Christians, the fact that Jesus is superior to everything that they've ever known in Judaism, which is an amazing thought because Judaism was such a big deal to the Jewish people, and their whole concept, their whole philosophy, their whole religion was so meaningful to them. And Paul is saying, look, we're not giving it up, we're not throwing it out, but you got to understand this relationship that we have with God through faith in Jesus Christ is far superior to anything that you had before. Now look at how he describes Jesus in verse 4, which is where we're picking up. Having become so much better than the angels, as he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. Now, understand, angels were a big part of Jewish theology, and they were very powerful. You see it all throughout the Old Testament when the messengers of God came down and how people were fearful because they were afraid that they were going to die, and they fell on their faces in fright and just in awe and amazement of the angels. And so angelology was a big deal to the Jewish people. And Paul says, but Jesus is so much better than the angels. Now, why does he say having become so much better? Well, remember when Jesus came to earth, he humbled himself and took upon himself the form of a man. He limited himself to being a human being. Now, understand, he was still God in the flesh. He still had amazing abilities, but in the flesh, he was limited. He could only be at one place at one time. He could not he could not be everywhere all the time because of his humanity, and he physically limited himself by taking on the flesh of man. Now he says now he's in heaven. He's seated at the right hand of majesty. He has become much better than the angels. Because he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. Well, what does that mean? Well, look at verse 5. For to which of the angels did he, God, ever say, you are my son, today I have begotten you? And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. Now, understand something. Angels were created beings. God created the angels, and they are created to serve him. Now, Jesus is God's son. He has always been, and he always will be. God never said to an angel, you're my son. He's never said to an angel, I'm your father. He has said to his son these things. And so Jesus is far greater than the angels. Then, verse 6, but when he again brings the firstborn into the world, he says, let all the angels of God worship him. Now, you remember when Jesus was born, the angel choir gathered round and they said, glory to God in the highest. What an amazing picture that would be. But the angels worshiped him because he is God in the flesh. And then verse 7, and of the angels he says, who makes his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire. See, the angels were ministering spirits. Yes, they were flames of fire, but they were there for a purpose, and that was to serve and to glorify him. But to the Son, he says, verse 8, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. And you, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain, and they will all grow old like a garment, like a cloak. You will fold them up, and they will be changed, but you are the same, and your years will not fail. Do you see it? All of this is praise and honor and glory to Jesus. And Paul is saying in this chapter, Jesus is far superior to the angels. Now, you see, there was a temptation then, just as there is today, to worship angels. And you remember every time somebody tried to bow down and worship an angel, they would say, no, don't do that. Get up, get up. I'm just a servant. Well, Jesus is far superior. He is worthy of our worship. The angels, we should fear them. We should be in awe of them. but not in the same form as Jesus. And finally, verse 13, but to which of the angels has he ever said, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool? He did say that to Jesus. And that's exactly what he's done, because now Jesus is exalted, seated at the right hand of God the Father. Think about that today. Be blessed, and we'll be back here tomorrow.